Welcome back to our holiday table for the Friday, November 28, 2025 installment of Market Plus. Want to let you know we are recording this on Tuesday ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Chris Robinson, Ernie Goss here in what has become, Ernie, a Thanksgiving tradition.
Turkey table.
Turkey table. I'm not calling you a turkey. Next year, maybe we'll bring turkey and trimmings and have a meal. All right, I need to ask the professor a quiz question, like you're writing a test here. Right. Before this week, take the Tyson story out of the factor. Take your survey out of the factor. Biggest story impacting the rural economy is A, inflation, B, grocery store prices, B, the Supreme Court's decision looming on tariffs, or Russia, Ukraine. Which one? And give me 30 words on why.
Russia, Ukraine, simply what that'll do to reducing tensions across the globe, in my judgment. So that will have some huge impacts in terms of gold prices, for example, all asset prices we've talked about before, but also the Supreme Court decision. That's going to be monumental, let's just put it that way. If they rule that the president cannot implement these tariffs and call them taking emergency measures and taking away Congress's prerogatives, that's going to be huge. And I think, as a matter of, as an economist, what we hate is using this tariffs as a sort of for every problem, the solution is tariffs. And it doesn't matter whether it's in Brazil, and that I really don't like to see that. And then I'm a fan of President Trump, and but I can't say I'm a fan of a lot of things that have gone on though. Then the tariffs are just one of them. They need to be reeled in. And we surveyed, of course, bank CEOs, and I think their belief is that this is negotiating. Well, if it's not working. In other words, President he's a business negotiator where there's a winner and loser. Well, in trade, and particularly in agriculture, there's a winner-winner, loser-loser. And that's what we're talking about. In this case, we lost, China lost, a lot of losses out there right now.
Chris, when you look at the same question, I want to tailor it just a tiny little bit to you. We always talk about black swans, and we'll get to a black swan question here in a minute. If we know that Russia, Ukraine, there's this push to get some end to this. We know that the Supreme Court is going to rule on those things. If I'm the producer watching this, what am I to do knowing these two things are looming and could be happening soon?
Instead of hoping that things get better, take advantage of what we have now and defend your business risk. And what does that mean? Get your risk on paper. I just mentioned we had a $1.50 rally in soybeans. A month ago, we were worried about soybeans sub $10. Here we are at $11. Don't worry about why. Worry about what happens if you just watch the contract go up, $1.50, multiply that by however many bushels you're growing. I don't care if you're growing 5,000 bushels or 50 million bushels. Protect that revenue. We don't have as much meat on the bone for wheat, certainly, or even corn, but we don't want to be in a situation where we're back where we were in sub 2013, where we're like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have $4 corn? I mean, nobody wants to see corn with a 3 in front of it. So my business is about defending against the worst. So defend what you can. Don't overspend, but you know that this is all coming down. So you don't need to go buy 100, 200 days worth of protection. You can buy a month or two and say, okay, we'll sit here, what happens, and hope that you don't need your downside protection. Hope that soybeans go to $12. Hope that corn goes to $5. Everybody hopes that anyhow. So defend what you can and try and stow your opinions. It's really, really easy to get very, very emotional, make bad emotional decisions. We're all going to find out together what's going to happen. So.
Well, Andy A. wants to know in a question that he sent in here, Chris, is it would appear that that we have gotten all of the black swan out of the way in the cattle market. What are your thoughts on the next floor? And maybe what could cause it?
The next black swan, what if? Yeah. You got to worry about what's going on with Japan and China and the U.S. now. I mean, the Prime Minister, I believe, it's the Prime Minister of Japan, she's a woman. Yeah. She basically said, oh yeah, if anything goes wrong in Taiwan, we'll be there. China did not like that. In fact, that's one reason yesterday the president said, oh, the meeting went really well. They had another phone call. Now the president's going to go meet him in April. So that's the issue. China wants to be able to to keep telling their people that they're going to get Taiwan back, and that's going to be the real issue. Because if we just got something seems to have been settled in the Mideast, we just might be getting something settled with Ukraine. So what's the last thing out there that could bother us? It would be something happening in Taiwan that nobody saw coming. And then if that happens, then it's flashbacks to Jimmy Carter and the Olympics, where we're not sending anything with the embargo, and that's what you don't want.
We already didn't send people to COP, which you could argue that's the administration's on environment. We didn't send anybody to the G20 last week in South Africa. So, I mean, those things are pretty much on the table. So what happens when we don't go to these these global events, Ernie, as a nation economically?
Well, it sends a message, of course, and that's the intent, in my judgment, that we're negotiating hard. In other words, we're the big dog, so you got to come to us.
Are people coming to us?
I don't see them coming to us. Some of them are, and we do hear about trade deals. All right, Japan has agreed to this, China's agreed to that. That's talk. Let's see it in action. Let's see that plant that was going to reshoring to U.S. We haven't seen it yet. And as Chris said, one of the things that right now is really watching is Japan. I mean, here they've handed off this to the first woman prime minister, and she's like, "This is what you do to your women. This is not." She's got a tough situation because the interest expense in ours is going crazy. Theirs is going much crazier. So what does it mean to us? It means that they were buying our bonds, bringing down our interest rates, long term particularly. They're not going to be buying our bonds to any great extent. They're going to be paying out interest there. So our interest rates are going to be springing higher. So back to the issue that you mentioned, the issues. Inflation's the next one of those numbers that I think you named 5.
I did.
And that's the third one.
Okay, you mentioned about you'd like to see another rate cut in December.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk with your bankers that you have conversations with. How willing are they to be writing farm loans? Are they writing them to the same level that they've written them in the past?
No, they're not. They're not. But they're being fair. They're being judicious. They're still making the farm loans, and as tough as I've just portrayed it, farmers are still paying back their loans. Delinquency rates are up, but not up significantly. There are bankers remain. The loans are up, but not what you'd think. And with interest rates coming down a bit, now that's on the short end. Everyone says, well, they're reducing these interest rates on December the 10th. That's what Goss has said. Well, mortgage rates will come down. No, mortgage rates are long-term. They're not set by the Fed. The Fed influences them. And in fact, the last time they did this in the fall of 2024, actually they cut short rates, long rates went up. So the idea that long rates will come down is not correct, not necessarily correct. But I do think we're in a period of, even with that said, I think we're in a period of somewhat lower long-term rates as well as short-term. And that'll help out. That'll help out in terms of loans. It'll help out in terms of farmland purchases, but not as much as we need to see. We need to see rates much lower. But back to how can I argue that when I just said inflation's the third one of those problems? Ernie Goss says reduce interest rates, and he said one of the biggest problems is inflation. You're right. There are so many contradictions out there, and that's one of them.
It makes it hard to navigate to understand what it is. And again, when you're already out of hands, as a one-handed economist, as it would go.
Well, Jay Powell is caught really between a rock and a hard place. What does he do? And the answer, he's getting beaten up by the president,
But does he, I guess this is a discussion we've had internally here, without the data, because we weren't collecting certain things in October and November, Powell's not going to have that data to rely on to make some of his decisions. He's going to have to rely on other things that have a little more weight and less hard data, right? To make some of his decisions, which makes him open to way more criticism. right?
Absolutely. And they gave us a number, 119,000 jobs. That's the BLS gave us this number. And by the way, those numbers have wide confidence intervals. In other words, the error is big. 119, and everybody jumped for joy. 119,000 is not that good. We need more than that. The ADP, the private number, came in. Those are negative. Creighton's numbers are negative. The national PMIs are negative. Manufacturing. Now, again, I'm overstating it. It's not horrible. It's not a crisis, but we're not doing well. Let's just put it that way. When the president says this is the best economy ever, I'm like, okay, what?
He likes the stock market.
You would need to. You would tell the students, show me your work.
Is that right?
That's right. Okay, I'm getting to the end of the time here.
Okay.
Chris, I got to ask you an actual commodity question here. Let's do Brad in Kansas if we could, Josh and Brent. Do you agree with the USDA yields for corn? And will they adjust in January or wait until August when farmers have sold?
It doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. I just trade the price. I learned a long time ago when I was just young in this business, you can be right and still lose money. So you want to win the battle, or do you want to just deal with the prices we have? So a lot of energy is wasted on arguing what the yields are. I know it's important. I know that it matters. I know that it's, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have them say the yields are huge and have prices go higher anyhow. And be like, why did that happen? The market discounts everything. That's the one thing about it, and free markets will do that. So, yeah, talking, you had Jeff on last week, and we all talked to the same, there's a whole group of us to talk, and we also talked to our clients. And yeah, in general, it's not, the yields weren't as good as they were last year. The question is, and this is, I don't know, because it's above my brigade, did we really plant all those acres? Because if that's what was the really embarrassing thing, the extra acres. I was like, okay, yeah, we're going to lower the yield, but look at all these extra acres. So that is the key. And guess what? We won't find out about that till January 10th. So if you don't do anything this year, hedge for the January 10th report.
Yeah. And the reason I tied those two statements together is because of there's that gap in data.
Yeah, we don't know.
And we just don't know. And it still is going to take us a long time to sort it out. Mm-hmm. And we might have it sorted out by July when we bring you guys back.
Well, then it'll be like the acres report in March. It's the January report, the final production number, and then the acres report, because that'll be the key. And it's and then the one big if is, can you tell me is there going to be a drought? If there's a drought, there's your second black swan.
All right. Chris Robinson, everybody. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Ernie Goss, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Nice to be here. Good.
Always.
Chris as well. Good to see Chris again.
Yeah, good to be here.
Always enjoy you too. And we enjoy you watching us. And I want to let you know that next week we're going to talk to some farmers who are trying to navigate the changes to labor policy. And our senior market analyst, John Roach, which, by the way, if you go to our YouTube channel, which we promoted at the end of the show, you can see John Roach's first appearance on Market to Market from 1977. It's available now on our YouTube and this week's MTOM podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week and a great, great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.